I remember the moment everything shattered. It was a Saturday evening, the kind of night that held the promise of warmth and laughter. My wife, Sarah, had invited some friends over for dinner, and I was busy in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for a hearty stew. The aroma of garlic and thyme filled the air, a stark contrast to the bitter taste that was about to invade my life. As I prepared the meal, I noticed Sarah's phone buzzing on the counter. It was a simple thing, a black case that had seen better days, but it was ours. We had shared so many moments, so many laughs, but in that instant it felt like it belonged to a stranger. Curious, I glanced at the screen. A name flashed across it, one I didn't recognize, Jake Mitchell. The message preview read, "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe." My heart dropped. I stood frozen, the knife slipping from my fingers and clattering against the cutting board. My mind raced. Who was Jake Mitchell? The name sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it. A casual acquaintance, a work colleague, or something more. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as I replayed the last few weeks in my mind. Had there been signs? Was I so blind to her betrayal? The laughter from the living room faded into the background as I picked up the phone, my hands shaking. I knew I shouldn't invade her privacy, but the fear of losing her to someone else consumed me. I unlocked the phone, my heart pounding in my chest. As I scrolled through the messages, I discovered a series of texts that made my blood run cold. They were flirty, intimate, and far too familiar. My breath hitched in my throat as I realized this was no innocent friendship, it was an affair. "Meet me at the usual spot." One message read, followed by a heart emoji. The usual spot. My stomach twisted at the thought. I felt sick, betrayed, and utterly lost. This wasn't just a betrayal of trust, it was a betrayal of everything we had built together. My mind raced with images of her in the arms of another man, laughing, sharing secrets, perhaps even whispering sweet nothings. I took a step back, the world around me blurring. I could hear the clinking of glasses and the cheerful chatter of our friends, but it all felt distant, like I was watching a movie unfold from a dark corner of the theater. My heart ached, and I felt the weight of despair settle over me. I had to confront her, but how? What would I say? Would she even admit it? I couldn't just stand there and let this moment define me. I needed answers, and I needed to protect what was mine. The thought of her with Jake Mitchell, whoever he was, ignited a fire within me. I wouldn't just sit back and let this happen. I would find out everything about this man and the affair he was having with my wife. As I turned away from the kitchen, I made a silent vow. I would uncover the truth, and when I did, I would make sure they both felt the consequences of their actions. The thought of revenge flickered in my mind like the flame of a candle, slowly growing stronger. I was no longer just the husband. I was a man scorned, and I would stop at nothing to reclaim my dignity. The laughter grew louder as I re-entered the living room. But my heart was heavy with the burden of betrayal. I plastered a smile on my face, determined to act normal, but inside I was a storm of emotions, swirling with confusion, anger, and a thirst for justice. Little did I know Jake Mitchell was not just a random name. He was a professional poker player, a man who thrived on deception and risk, much like the game he played. And I was about to step into a world of intrigue and danger, where I would not only seek revenge for my wife's infidelity, but also expose the man who had charmed her away from me. The next few days were a blur of confusion and anger. I acted as if everything was normal, but every laugh shared with Sarah felt like a dagger in my chest. I needed to know more about Jake Mitchell. Who was he? How had he managed to worm his way into my wife's heart? I began my investigation with a simple search online. Jake Mitchell was a name that appeared frequently in the world of poker. He was a rising star, known for his charm and cunning at the poker table. I found articles and videos showcasing his skills, but what struck me the most was the way he was described: charismatic, smooth-talking, and dangerously attractive. It was no wonder Sarah had fallen for him. The thought of her with him twisted my insides, but I pressed on. I needed to gather information to understand my enemy. I spent hours combing through social media, looking for any connection between Sarah and Jake. I discovered pictures of them together at various poker tournaments, their smiles wide, their chemistry palpable. Each image felt like a punch to the gut. I felt like a fool, completely unaware of the affair that had been brewing right under my nose. It was infuriating. One night, as I sat in the dim light of my study, I found a forum dedicated to poker enthusiasts. I signed up under a pseudonym, eager to learn more about the man who had stolen my wife's affections. I began participating in discussions, asking about local games and the players who frequented them. The more I immersed myself in this world, the more I realized how cutthroat it could be. I learned about Jake's reputation. He was known for his ability to read people, to exploit their weaknesses. At the table, he was a master of deception, and it dawned on me that this wasn't just about poker, it was about manipulation. I had to play my cards right if I wanted to take him down. As the days turned into weeks, I began to frequent local poker games, trying to blend in and gather information. I wore a simple baseball cap and hoodie, hopping to remain inconspicuous. The atmosphere was electric, filled with tension and the scent of sweat and smoke. I watched seasoned players, studying their expressions, their tells. I learned the language of the game, the nuances that could give me an edge. I met some players who knew Jake, and I listened carefully to their stories. He was a high roller known for his lavish lifestyle, but there were whispers of his arrogance and his tendency to play dirty. I felt a mix of anger and determination. I could use this to my advantage. If he was willing to cheat at cards, then surely he would cheat at life too. I dug deeper, gathering intel on his usual haunts. One night I found myself at a dimly lit bar where Jake often played. I sat at a corner table, nursing a drink and watching him interact with other players. He was charming, his laughter infectious. I could see how easy it would be for someone like Sarah to be drawn to him. My heart raced as I felt a surge of jealousy and rage. But I was here for a reason. I needed to gather more evidence, to find a way to expose him not just as a cheater in poker but as a cheater in life. I observed him closely, taking mental notes of his behavior, his interactions. I realized he was not just a skilled player, he was a master manipulator, and I had to outsmart him. I began to formulate a plan. I would leverage his weaknesses against him. I would find a way to get into a game with him, to exploit the very tactics he used to win. The thought of revenge fueled my determination. I would not only reclaim my dignity, but also ensure that Jake Mitchell faced the consequences of his actions. As I delved deeper into the poker scene, I made a few connections with other players who were disgruntled with Jake's arrogance. They were eager to share their experiences, and I began to build a network of allies. It felt like I was creating a small army, all united by a common goal: to take down the man who had disrupted our lives. Each passing day made me more resolute. I was no longer just a betrayed husband. I was a man on a mission. The emotional turmoil that had engulfed me transformed into focus and determination. I wouldn't let this man get away with his deceit, not at the poker table and not in my life. I was ready to play my hand. I knew the time had come to confront Sarah. The more I learned about Jake Mitchell and the world he inhabited, the more I felt the weight of my discoveries pressing down on me. I had gathered evidence, but nothing felt as heavy as the betrayal in my heart. I needed to hear the truth from her lips, to confront her about the affair that had shattered my world. It was a Friday evening when I finally decided to confront her. The air was thick with tension, and the shadows in our living room seemed to loom larger than ever. I had rehearsed what I would say in my mind, but no amount of preparation could ease the anxiety bubbling within me. I took a deep breath and called her into the living room. "Sarah, can we talk?" I said, my voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of emotion. She looked up from her phone, surprise flickering across her face. "Of course, is everything okay?" I gestured for her to sit down, my heart pounding in my chest. "No, everything is not okay. I found something on your phone." Her expression shifted, uncertainty clouding her features. "What do you mean?" I took a seat across from her, locking my gaze onto hers. "I found messages between you and Jake Mitchell. You know who he is, don't you?" Her face paled, and for a moment I thought she might deny it, but the guilt in her eyes told me everything I needed to know. I can explain," she stammered, her voice trembling. "Explain what exactly?" I interrupted, my anger boiling to the surface. "Explain how you've been lying to me, how you've been seeing him behind my back. I deserve the truth, Sarah. Tears welled in her eyes, and I felt a pang of sympathy, but I quickly pushed it aside. You've betrayed me, I continued, my voice rising. You let this man into our lives, into our marriage. How could you do this? I never meant for it to happen, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Jake and I met at a poker tournament. He was charming, and I was drawn to him in a way I didn't expect. It was a mistake, I swear. Just a mistake. I shot back incredulously. You think this is just some fleeting moment. You've been seeing him for months, Sarah. You've shared intimate moments with him while I was left in the dark. Do you have any idea how that feels? She broke down, sobs racking her body. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to hurt you. It just happened. I thought it was just a fling, but then I started to care for him. I never meant to fall in love. Love. I spat, the word tasting bitter on my tongue. You call this love? You've thrown away everything we built together for a fling with a professional poker player. What about our vows, Sarah? What about us? I know I messed up, she said, her voice breaking. I'm here now. I want to fix this. I want to be with you. The sincerity in her voice pierced through my anger, but I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. Can you honestly say you love me after everything? I do love you, she pleaded, reaching for my hand. I'm so sorry for what I did. I'll do anything to make it right. Please just give me a chance. I pulled my hand away, the distance between us feeling insurmountable. Do you really think I can just forget this? You've shattered my trust. And what about Jake? What about the man who took advantage of your vulnerability? I'll end it with him, she promised, desperation in her eyes. I'll cut him out of my life for good. I just need you to believe me. I shook my head, feeling the anger and betrayal coiling within me. It's not that simple, Sarah. You don't get to just sweep this under the rug. You've hurt me in a way I can't even begin to describe. She looked defeated, her shoulders slumped as she sank back into the couch. What do you want me to say? I'm sorry doesn't seem to be enough. I stood up, packing the room as I wrestled with my emotions. I want you to understand the gravity of what you've done. You've not only betrayed me, you've betrayed our life together, but I also want to make sure he pays for what he's done. I want to expose him for the fraud he is, both at the poker table and in life. A flicker of confusion crossed her face. What do you mean? I've been gathering information about Jake, I confessed, my voice steadying. I'm going to make sure his luck runs out. He's not just going to get away with this. Wait, you're not serious, she said, panic rising in her voice. You can't do that. It's dangerous. Dangerous. I scoffed, the fire in my belly igniting. He's the one who's endangered our marriage. He's the one who took you away from me. I won't let him manipulate anyone else the way he manipulated you. Please just think this through, she urged, her voice trembling. This isn't the way to handle this. I paused, the weight of her words sinking in, but the anger coursing through me drowned out any rational thought. No, Sarah, this is how I'm going to handle it. I won't let him win. I won't let him take you or anything else from me. The confrontation had brought us to a crossroads. I could see the fear in her eyes, but I was too far gone in my quest for revenge. The emotional turmoil of betrayal had morphed into a singular focus. I would take down Jake Mitchell, and in doing so, I would reclaim my dignity. As I walked out of the room, I felt an unsettling mix of clarity and darkness. I was no longer just a betrayed husband. I was a man on a mission, ready to do whatever it took to ensure that Jake paid for his deception. The days following my confrontation with Sarah were a whirlwind of planning and preparation. I had made a pact with myself. I would not only expose Jake Mitchell for the fraud he was, but also ensure that he felt the consequences of his actions. The poker world was a dangerous game, and I was determined to play it to my advantage. I began by reaching out to some of the players I had met during my investigation. I explained my situation, the betrayal I had suffered, and my desire to take down Jake. To my surprise, many were eager to help. They had their own grievances with him, stories of manipulation, cheating, and arrogance. We formed an unlikely alliance, united by a shared goal, to strip Jake of his reputation and his winnings. One player, a grizzled veteran named Tom, had a wealth of knowledge about the poker circuit. He agreed to mentor me, teaching me the intricacies of the game and how to exploit the weaknesses of other players. I spent hours with him, absorbing every detail, practicing my poker face, and learning the art of deception. I needed to become a formidable opponent, one who could stand toe-to-toe with Jake and outsmart him at his own game. As I honed my skills, I devised a plan to challenge Jake to a head-to-head match. I knew that if I could beat him in a game, it would not only expose his weaknesses but also serve as a public humiliation. I reached out to him under the guise of wanting to settle some unfinished business, an old debt that had been lingering since I first entered the poker scene. He agreed, his arrogance blinding him to the trap I was setting. The day of the match arrived, and I felt a mixture of excitement and dread. The venue was a high-stakes poker room in the heart of the city, buzzing with anticipation. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and desperation, and I could feel the eyes of onlookers boring into me as I stepped into the room. I was a man on a mission, but the weight of my emotions threatened to overwhelm me. Jake was already there, leaning casually against the table, his confidence radiating like a beacon. He had a sly smile on his face, and I could see the glimmer of arrogance in his eyes. "Glad you could make it," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. "Ready to lose some money?" I forced a smile, masking my inner turmoil. "I'm ready to play, Jake. Let's see how lucky you really are." As we sat down at the table, I took a moment to study him. He was everything I had expected, charming, self-assured, and utterly unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. I could see the way he interacted with the other players, his cocky demeanor endearing him to some while alienating others. But I had learned enough about him to know that beneath that charm lay a ruthless competitor. The game began, and I focused on my strategy. I played conservatively, letting Jake take the lead while I observed his tactics. He was skilled, but I noticed his tendency to overplay his hand when he felt confident. I capitalized on that, waiting for the right moment to strike. As the rounds progressed, the tension in the room grew palpable. Jake was raking in chips, his confidence swelling with each win. But I remained calm, reminding myself of my purpose. I wasn't just playing for money. I was playing for my dignity, my marriage, and the truth. Finally, the moment came. I had built up a substantial stack of chips, and Jake had become increasingly reckless. He was on a hot streak, but I could sense his overconfidence beginning to unravel. I decided to go all in, a bold move that would either make or break me. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Jake asked, his smirk faltering for just a moment. "You might regret it." I leaned back in my chair, meeting his gaze with unwavering determination. "I'm counting on it." As the cards were revealed, the room fell silent. My heart raced as I examined my hand, a flush. I had him beat. The realization hit me like a tidal wave, and I fought to keep my expression neutral. Jake's face transformed from confidence to disbelief as he realized he had lost. "I can't believe this," he said, his voice strained. "You got lucky." "Luck has nothing to do with it," I replied, a sense of satisfaction washing over me. "You underestimated me, Jake. You thought you could charm your way into my life and take what's mine without consequences." The crowd erupted in murmurs, and I could feel the weight of their attention. I had not only beaten him at the poker table, but had exposed him for the fraud he truly was. The thrill of victory coursed through me, but it was bittersweet. I had achieved my goal, but the emotional toll of the entire situation lingered. Jake's face twisted in anger as he pushed his chair back. "This isn't over," he spat, his voice low and threatening. "You'll regret this." I stood my ground, feeling a rush of adrenaline. "You may have played your last hand, Jake. Your luck has run out." As he stormed out of the room, I felt a mix of triumph and relief. I had taken a stand, not just for myself, but for anyone who had ever fallen victim to his deceitful charm. I had outsmarted him, and in doing so, I had reclaimed my dignity. But as the cheers of the crowd echoed in my ears, I knew the battle was far from over. I had exposed Jake Mitchell at the poker table, but I still had to confront the consequences of my actions in my personal life. The aftermath of this confrontation would shape not only my relationship with Sarah, but also the path forward. I had won the game, but the stakes were still high. The aftermath of the poker match unfolded like a dramatic play, and I was both the protagonist and the antagonist in my own story. The victory over Jake Mitchell had sent shockwaves through the poker community, but the real battle lay ahead, confronting Sarah and reconciling the wreckage of our relationship. After the match, I returned home, my heart pounding with adrenaline. I had beaten Jake, but the thrill of victory was overshadowed by the uncertainty of my marriage. Sarah was waiting for me, her expression a mixture of anxiety and hope. The moment I stepped through the door, she rushed to me, her eyes searching for answers. "How did it go?" she asked, her voice trembling. I took a deep breath, the gravity of the situation weighing heavily on my shoulders. "I won," I said, my voice steady. "I exposed Jake for the fraud he is." A flicker of relief crossed her face, but it was quickly replaced by concern. "That's amazing, but what does this mean for us?" I hesitated, the emotional turmoil swirling within me. "It means I've taken a stand, but it doesn't change what you did. You betrayed me, Sarah. I can't just forget that because I beat him at poker." Tears filled her eyes as she stepped closer. "I know I hurt you and I'm so sorry. I want to make things right. I want to rebuild our marriage. Please, let's talk about this." I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but I was conflicted. The anger I felt toward her was still fresh, and the wound of betrayal had not yet healed. "How can I trust you again? How can I move forward when you let someone like Jake into our lives?" She reached for my hand, her grip tight. "I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust back. I'll cut him out of my life completely, I promise." The desperation in her voice tugged at my heart, but the bitterness of her betrayal held me back. "You have to understand, this isn't just about Jake, it's about us. I need time to process everything." As we spoke, I could feel the tension in the room thickening. I wanted to believe her, to forgive her, but the scars of her infidelity were deep. The poker match had been a victory on one front, but it felt like a hollow win when it came to my personal life. "I need to know that you're committed to fixing this," I said finally, my voice low. "I need to see that you're willing to fight for our marriage." "I am," she said, her voice firm. "I love you and I want to be with you. I'll prove it." I nodded, still uncertain. "It's going to take time, Sarah. I can't just flip a switch and forget everything. I need to see actions, not just words." The conversation lingered in the air, heavy with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. We spent the evening in silence, each lost in our thoughts, the weight of our situation pressing down on us. I felt like I was standing at a crossroads, unsure of which path to take. The following days were a blur of emotions. Sarah made efforts to reconnect, reaching out to me with gestures of love and support. She cut all ties with Jake, even going so far as to block him on social media and change her phone number. I could see she was trying, but the memories of her betrayal haunted me. Then came the day when Jake decided to retaliate. I was at home trying to focus on work when I received an anonymous message. It was a video link. My heart sank as I clicked on it, and there he was, Jake, sitting in a dimly lit room smirking at the camera. "Hey buddy," he began, his voice dripping with mockery. "I heard you had a little poker match. Congrats on the win, but let's be real, you're not done yet. I know where Sarah is and I can make your life a living hell. You think you've won? Just wait." The threat hung in the air like a storm cloud, and I felt a surge of anger and fear. I had exposed him, but he was not going to go down without a fight. I had to act quickly. I reached out to my allies in the poker community, informing them of Jake's threats. They rallied around me, offering support and guidance. In that moment, I realized that the battle with Jake was far from over. I had to confront him head-on, not just for my own peace of mind, but for Sarah's sake as well. It was time to take the fight to him. I arranged to meet Jake at a public location, a bar known for its high-stakes poker games. It was a risky move, but I wanted him to know that I wouldn't back down. I was done being a victim. As I walked into the bar, I felt a rush of adrenaline coursing through me. The atmosphere was charged, and I could sense the tension in the air as I spotted Jake at a corner table, flanked by a couple of his cronies. "Look who decided to show up," Jake said, his smile a twisted reflection of his arrogance. "Thought you'd run away with your tail between your legs." I stepped closer, my heart pounding. "I'm not afraid of you, Jake. You think you can threaten me and get away with it? You're mistaken." His demeanor shifted slightly, the cockiness fading as he realized I wasn't backing down. "You think you're tough. You're just a pawn in this game, and I'm the one holding all the cards." "Not anymore," I said, my voice low and steady. "You're done playing games. You've hurt me and you've hurt Sarah. I won't let you manipulate us any longer." The tension Between us crackled like electricity, and for a moment I thought he might back down. But then he leaned forward, a dangerous glint in his eye. "You really think you can take me down? This isn't over. I'll always be a part of your life now." I took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage within me. "No, this ends here. I'm not letting you ruin my life or my marriage any longer. You'll regret ever crossing me." As I turned to leave, I could feel his eyes boring into my back. I had made my stance clear, but the battle was far from over. The climax of this conflict had only just begun, and I was ready to face whatever came next. I had fought for my dignity, for my marriage, and now I would fight for my peace of mind. The stakes were high, but I was determined to see this through to the end. The days following my confrontation with Jake were filled with a tense mixture of relief and uncertainty. I had stood my ground, but the air was thick with unresolved tension. I had won the poker match and exposed Jake for fraud he was, yet the emotional scars from Sarah's betrayal lingered like shadows in our home. Sarah and I began to navigate the complexities of our relationship anew. She was dedicated to proving her commitment, and I could see her efforts to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. We started attending couples therapy, and I realized that we both needed to unpack the emotional baggage we were carrying. It was a difficult process, filled with raw conversations about love, betrayal, and forgiveness. During one of our sessions, Sarah looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you. I let my guard down and I was weak. I'm sorry for the pain I caused. I want to be better for you, for us." I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "I know you're trying, but it's hard for me to forget. I need to see that you're committed to making things right. It's going to take time." As we continued our sessions, I gradually began to see the cracks in my own armor. I had been so focused on revenge and exposing Jake that I had neglected my own healing process. I realized that while I could fight for my dignity, I also needed to fight for my own emotional well-being. During this time, Jake's presence was still a looming threat. I received occasional messages from him, taunting and threatening, but I refused to let him control my life any longer. I reported his behavior to the authorities, and with the support of my poker allies, I gathered enough evidence to file a restraining order. It felt empowering to take action against him, to reclaim my life from his grasp. As the weeks turned into months, I began to notice a shift in my feelings towards Sarah. The anger that had consumed me slowly transformed into compassion as I witnessed her dedication to our relationship. We began to reconnect on a deeper level, sharing our dreams and aspirations. I found myself laughing again, the weight of betrayal gradually lifting. One evening, as we sat on the couch together, I turned to Sarah, my heart pounding. "I've been thinking a lot about everything we've been through. I want us to move forward, but we need to do it together. I need to know that you're in this for the long haul." "I am," she replied, her voice steady. "I've learned so much from this experience. I want to be a better partner, a better person. I want to build a future with you." Her sincerity resonated within me, and I felt a glimmer of hope spark in my heart. "I want that too, but it's going to take time. I need to heal, and I want us to grow together." As we sat in silence, I realized that while the scars of betrayal would always be a part of our story, they didn't have to define us. We could choose to write a new chapter, one filled with understanding, forgiveness, and love. Months later, as the sun set on another day, I found myself sitting at the poker table again, but this time it was different. I was no longer there to seek revenge or to expose anyone. I was there to reclaim a piece of myself that I had lost along the way. I played with a sense of purpose, a newfound confidence that came from within. As the cards were dealt, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. The stakes were high, but I was no longer driven by anger or betrayal. I played strategically, focusing on the game rather than the ghosts of my past. I had learned to trust myself again, and with each hand I felt more empowered. After the game, I walked out into the cool night air, a sense of closure settling over me. I had faced my demons, both in the poker world and in my personal life. I had fought for my dignity, for my marriage, and for my peace of mind. The journey had been tumultuous, but I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient. As I pulled out my phone to text Sarah, I couldn't help but smile. We were both on a path of healing, and I knew that we would face whatever challenges lay ahead together. The complexities of love and trust were no longer daunting. They were opportunities for growth. In that moment, I realized that revenge had its place, but it was love and understanding that truly held the power to mend what had been broken. I had fought my battles, but now I was ready to embrace the future, one filled with hope, trust, and a renewed commitment to rebuilding the life we had once shared. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to walk it, hand in hand with the woman I loved. Together, we would forge a new beginning, leaving the shadows of the past behind. And as I stepped into the night, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I had finally taken control of my life, and nothing could take that away.